Welcome you to EDA customer. This YouTube video will demo how to EDA Server link to same SQL Server table. When one EDA Server file has been updated, then you can see the update from another EDA server. So some customers want to have a solution to multiple EDA server using EDA solution to link same remote server. For my testing is on SQL Server. So how can you accomplish this task? So first, you need to have one major EDA server to convert a YouTube file become EDA file on the one main machine. Then set up the same EDA data source on the other machine. Then you can copy the EDA on dictionary file from main machine to other EDA server. The problem is EDA can login control only handle on the same machine. But if you have two different machines and you try to update the machine 1 and update the machine 2, they don't know each other, so it will override the update. So I will try to demo is on Universe Windows 12.1 using one Universe file called customer1 file. It's basically the same customer file. So I will create one Windows system DSN called customer1 underscore DSN, and also need to using the EDA schema manager tool to create the EDA data source. The name called customer1 underscore DS. So after you create a schema, then you need to convert the customer1 file become customer1 EDA file. Then second machine on other EDA server are using the same Universe 12.1. So the EDA server, you need to have a similar setting on your EDA environment. So the first one major thing, you also need to create the same system DSN name on another machine. So I just using the same name called customer1 underscore DSN name. The second one, the name called EDA data source, the name must be the same on the main EDA server, because the EDA file only recognized is the same EDA data source name. So the name will be same thing called the customer1 underscore DS. So when the second machine, EDA machine, have environment ready, then you just copy the EDA file and the dictionary from the main EDA server, then add the new voc entry on the second machine. On this test case, I'm using customer1. So when you update the file on the customer1 on the main server, you can see the change on the second machine. So here's the example using the customer1 and 1 and to change anything you want. But if you at the same time to update it, then last update will override the previous. I also test on the Linux and Windows environment. So I using the Red Hat 7.9, but this machine is installed on the Universe 11.3.2 and created something like a SQL Server 2019 DSN, and also same data source name, also called SQL Server 2019. So the file I convert is the customer Linux. Same thing, I copy this the EDA file and copy to my local Windows machine, just like a Windows demo. You will same thing, just copy the customer Linux EDA file, then create a similar DSM called SQL Server 2019 and connect to the same SQL Server. Then also create a EDA data source called SQL Server 2019 just for a Linux environment. So same thing, copy the EDA file and dictionary, then from the main server to the local machine, add the new voc entry. So very similar to the demo, I can see you can update a customer Linux file on the two different machines. So if you look at this, you will see the main thing, you must have an EDA main server and from to convert your original U2 file, Universe for Unidata file, do the EDA conversion to the SQL Server. Then the U2 file, it became EDA file. From EDA file, then you can copy this EDA file to another EDA server. But you need to run EDA Schema Manager tool to create the same EDA data source name. I will demo later and to show you it's very simple to how you work. The first, I will demo on the Windows environment. So basically, this is I using the on the main server. It's on the virtual machine. I create a system DSM, and the name will be called customer 1. If you look at the data source name called customer 1 DS, so I already created customer 1 underscore DSM is the Windows system DSM 64-bit using the SQL Server native client 11 connect to the SQL Server. So after that, you create the EDA data source name. So make sure data source name is correct, everything is working fine. After you create a DSM, and then I have original universe file called customer 1. But this one, I already created. It's the same customer schema, and run the EDA convert. It can be the EDA file. So if you go back after I convert it, that's original converted. So this one actually it's the customer 1. So this one is actually connect to a remote SQL Server. So if you go back to SQL Server site, that's the SQL Server. I already converted. So you will see the name called customer 1. So if you look at the data, so that's the output from customer 1 from main EDA server on Windows. This is for Windows. So after this one, I can do anything change. So for example, I can use an AE customer 1. So that's just the customer 1 record. Before I change it, I like to the next step. You need to copy this the EDA file from the main EDA server to your local machine. And then I have another Windows machine. Actually, it's this one. So this one I got the copy to the one customer 1. So from this file, I copy the EDA file, also copy the dictionary. So you will create the voc file called customer. So that's the voc file setting. Because this one is the EDA file, before you can do this, make sure your EDA data source also is working right on the local machine. So actually, that's another machine. It's my local machine. This one, I create the same EDA data source name called customer1 underscore DS. So this one actually is connected to same SQL Server. So from this setting, every EDA data source setting correctly, invoke entry also correctly. From this one, so you will see I can list customer 1. So you will see the same data. So when I update from the main EDA server, I can update, for example, like a first name, and I can add first name. So I have updated. If you look at customer again, I look at data, it's 1. You see CT customer 1. So you see the update on the SQL Server. You also can verify from the SQL Server side. So this one, if I retrieve the data, you see the one similar, the first name will be changed. But if you go back to the second one is the second EDA server. So this one, if I can, you see for this one, you see the updated. So actually it's this one, but also I can update from this one to another one. So for example, I can AE customer 1. So this time I update the Smith. So I can add YYY. So you can save it. So if you look at it again, so data, the first name, last name also change. So if you go back to the main server, so you will change on the main server, last name, first name already changed. So if you go back the SQL Server side, you will see the first name, last name change. So you can, when you try to update at the same time, and it depends, the last one update will override the previous update. The similar concept is for Linux. So this one, I have another environment as on the Linux environment. This one actually is a Linux Red Hat 7.9. I have a universe 11.3.1 on this the Red Hat machine. So this one, I do the similar thing. So I have copied the customer became customer Linux. So I have the Microsoft ODBC driver for SQL Server. So I can do the similar thing to convert the customer Linux to SQL Server. So after I create it, if you look at this one, I'm looking for file status Linux. Actually, the name called list customer Linux. So actually, this one is the EDA file. So after I convert it, if you go back to SQL Server, you will see the similar the information from here. From I can copy just Linux one. If you read the data, it's the same thing. Same errors. One Smith. So I can change it either from the Unix environment or from Windows environment. I do the similar things. There's actually another one. This one, not this one, is my local machine. Yeah, this one is my local machine. So if you connect to this one. For this one, actually, I create another called EDA data source, data source called SQL Server. You can set all the machines the same, but I just try to demo is different for this one. This one actually is the same thing. I just using different name called SQL Server 2019. It's for Linux. So when I set up the same EDA data source name for customer Linux. After I set the same environment, I copy it. I put the local same thing for voc called Linux. Actually, it's called customer Linux. So it set up the all environment is fine. Then same EDA data source. Then I can update the customer Linux. This one. So I can add AAA. I can add BBB. So that's just for when I save it. Actually, this one is the second EDA server. So if I go back to original Linux machine, you will see the data will be changed. It's the customer 1 AAA and BBB. So that's just the way how you work with EDA file or store the EDA data source in the particular EDA file headers. So you cannot change. You must be using the same name. So hopefully you can enjoy this video and you can set up the multiple EDA server connect to the same SQL Server on your environment.